The leap of faith scene from Into the Spider-Verse is absolutely amazing. It is one of my favourite scenes ever made. There are plenty of scenes out there that are impressive, but nothing out there makes me feel the same way as this scene made me feel.
Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger?
Other than maybe Test Drive.
Alright, it's go time, it's go time.
But why is that? What is it about these particular scenes that grabs me in a way that no other scenes can grab me? In a way where they just can't leave my brain and are standout features of the film. Kind of like rich, creamy milkshake along a really tasty burger. Okay, stop thinking about food. This video was interesting to make because it was one where I had to look inside myself rather than look outside for information. From that, I found that there are a few things that make it great, as well as a really big revelation that I haven't seen anyone talk about with these scenes. But to start things off, let's start off with a bit of a background. Coming of age films are one of my favourite types of films, and this film is a really good one of those coming of age films. While almost every story out there is about a transformation of some sort in a character, what I love about these types of films is that they are often very focused on the main character themselves, and their journey is from what is essentially childhood to adulthood. But oftentimes it's not necessarily childhood to adulthood, but it's basically a more naive, in a sense, lower state, you know, like those trash minions have always been, to an elevated one, in what could be one of the biggest transformations in their lives. The stories are very mushy, emotional stories about people growing to see the world differently in what is usually such a satisfying way. In Into the Spider-Verse, the adult state is becoming Spider-Man, and in How to Train Your Dragon, the adult state is being able to be a leader, convince people dragons aren't bad, and having a bomb drop sounding, faster than light flying, cutie little pet. Both this film and How to Train Your Dragon start with the characters being pushed into living a life that they do not want to be living. Hiccup is being pushed into killing dragons that he knows aren't evil, and Miles has powers that are wrecking his life and are totally out of his control. From these events, things keep going wrong. Both of them keep messing up. Hiccup, well, lives up to his name, and Miles, well, builds up the miles, running away from all the trouble he gets into. Until we get to some really big emotional peaks in the story, although there can be multiple ones in a story. During this process, we see both of them trying their absolute best to reach their goals, but they just can't seem to get there as hard as they try. You novices! In Into the Spider-Verse, this is the part where Miles is tied up in his room after being told that he can't help the rest of the spider people, and he is basically left feeling like he let everyone down. And to make matters worse, the uncle that Miles loved has just died, and his brother, or his dad, comes and wants to talk to Miles about it, but Miles obviously can't talk, and it's just such a hard scene to watch because, you know, Miles would have really wanted to talk to his dad at that moment. And then in How to Train Your Dragon, Toothless is almost discovered by pre-romantic flyer Astrid. And quick aside, just very quickly, the flying scenes in How to Train Your Dragon 2 and How to Train Your Dragon 1 are so incredible. I mean, romantic flight is way up there in terms of scenes I love too. Imagine being able to see both of those scenes in one film for the first time on the big screen. I am literally so jealous of people that got to do that. Seriously. Same with you people who got to see The Lion King in cinemas. You know which Lion King I'm talking about, obviously. So jealous. Anyway, emotional peaks. Yeah, so Astrid almost discovers Toothless, and Toothless's dad discovers his son maybe less hiccupy than he first thought. He's still goofy as heck though. Hiccup doesn't necessarily know about either of these things happening, but as the audience we do feel the tension ourselves. These scenes are all building up to one of the peaks called... I don't really have a name for these scenes, but I'll just call them the explosion scenes. That just kind of makes sense to me. These scenes is where a large amount of that tension is released and a major part of the transformation happens. But wait, the release is not there right away. The true genius of these scenes, wait for it, is that they are entire stories within a story. I'm literally not joking. Literally, all the elements are there of a hero's journey story. We're getting the resolution for the building tension with a whole other story. Yes, these scenes are their own beasts that add even more tension, have their own goal, and then resolve it all at once. Their tension as well as the tension from before. So not only did they basically make a story that works in of itself, but they also made the story that works within a bigger story. This is where my earlier analogy falls apart, by the way. Don't pour your milkshake inside a burger. It won't be nice. But before I get into that, see what I did there? Building up tension like the film did? Yep. I cannot talk about this scene without talking about the callbacks. The callbacks in the Leap of Faith scene are so satisfying. If you're a fan of this film, you've probably heard of some of them. The most common being Miles aligning with the suit and Aunt May saying,
They fit perfectly.
after Stanley said,
It always fits. Eventually.
but every time I come back to this scene, I keep seeing more pretty much every time. For example, the recent one I noticed was the running across the glass scene, which I feel is a callback to this whole performance that Miles did.
Interesting is that we look on the other.
Some of them may be stretching it, sure, but there are a lot of callbacks. Just look out for them in the scene. There's so many of them. Okay, anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's get onto the whole story within a story thing. In case you don't know, basically all of the films out there use a format called the hero's journey. I did a whole video about it up there, but if you haven't watched it, it's basically a structure that films use that allows them to be very unique while also being very engaging. And it basically gives you everything that you expect from a good film, no matter what the genre. This entire structure is what's happening within this single scene, as well as the test drive scene in How to Train Your Dragon. They are literally hitting every single stage of the hero's journey. There's no way they didn't intentionally do this. Want to see what I mean? Well, here it is. This is the hero's journey that I found within the What's Up Danger / Leap of Faith scene in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So we start off this scene in a totally different place to the past location, setting the stage for something new. We see what Miles is doing and we start to learn why he is here. We then jump to Miles, who is going into Aunt May's hidden spider cave, where he gets the suit, and we start to figure out what the call to action is. Miles is ready to take the leap, and he's going to prove to himself and everyone around him that he is ready. The refusal to the call is sort of there by the heavy breathing that Miles is doing, and also by the hard beating of the music. The mentors from the next stage of the hero's journey are the voices that he remembers that indirectly push him to take the leap, all trying to convince him that he can do it, while he is still very hesitant. And then, all of a sudden, he takes the jump, and at this point, he's crossed the threshold and cannot return. He has to commit. After a brief moment of enjoying the feeling, he hesitates and struggles as we look down and see his allies looking up at him from below. And we also see the new web slingers that Aunt May gives him. And as Miles reaches the bottom, we reach the climax and see the old regular Miles die. I just realized that it makes it sound like he splattered on the floor. No, he doesn't splat on the floor. He is reborn as Spider-Man. And he's rewarded by flying through the city that he does recognize, but now sees in a very different way. He's in the air for part of it, but soon he reaches the ground where he has to pass over cars and over obstacles as he makes his way back home. Before he finally arrives, and we can literally see what the normal world is for the entirety of the film, since this film does take place at the end of Act 2, which is usually where films start to go back into the normal world. And I also just see this part as a light at the end of the tunnel for Miles that has just come out of a journey to realize his destiny and become Spider-Man. And this transformation that Miles has just gone through is beautifully solidified when we see his comic drop right at the end. Incredible scene. I love this scene so much. It is so good. And I could also plot out the hero's journey with the test drive scene in How to Train Your Dragon. I won't go through the entire thing in this video, but do feel free to try and plot it out for yourself. And I'll also leave what my interpretation of the hero's journey for the test drive scene is in the description down below. These scenes both help to achieve smaller goals that will then help to achieve the big goal of the film, the defeating of the Alpha in House Tuning Dragon, and the stopping of the reactor in Into the Spider-Verse. Neither of these scenes could have been done without these two amazing scenes happening. And that's not even touching on the music for these scenes too, and how they come together beautifully for the scenes. I mean, it literally does come together. That is literally what happens. If you watch the videos by Sideways, you'll totally know what I mean, because I could not do half as good of a job as Sideways does in that department. So I would highly recommend checking out his videos down below and up above too. So thanks to the tension, the incredible visuals, the music, sound design, the transformation that we see happen right in front of our eyes, as well as, of course, the entire hero's journey that's put into it, these scenes continue to stand out as some of my all-time favorite scenes. And now, after coming to this realization, I know exactly why. If you want to see my videos early and want to have your name at the end of my videos, please consider checking out my Patreon. And comment down below what your favorite part of this scene, as well as the How to Train Your Dragon scene, is. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe in these uncertain times, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.